Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to the second Clean Lakes Alliance Women in Water and Sustainability panel discussion. My name is Heather Wentler, and I am the Executive Director and co-founder of DANE. And we are so proud to be co-hosting this event with the Clean Lakes Alliance. DANE, to give you a little background about the organization, we were founded in 2012, and we focus on 3 key areas to support women and marginalized gender entrepreneurs. The first key area is access to professional development to support their entrepreneurial journey. 2, access to funding through DANE and also through pipeline connections for access to the funds entrepreneurs need to further their ventures. And 3, transforming the narrative to expand who and what types of startup ventures are seen as successful within the greater community. There are ways for everyone to be able to connect and support entrepreneurs through DANE, and I encourage you to take a look at our website, doyengroup.org, to see how you can leverage your talent and capital to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Wisconsin, and more specifically within Madison as well. This afternoon's panel will feature 3 women who are leading water and sustainability efforts in Wisconsin. The discussion will be moderated and led by WKOW's meteorologist, Katherine Noël. A little information about our panelists before we kick it off. Our first panelist is Dr. Margaret Lumley, who is a recent UW graduate with a PhD in chemistry. During her PhD work, Dr. Lumley worked to develop a technology that can be used to remove and recover salt from water. In Madison, the use of water softener salt, and of course road salt, is leading to elevated salt concentrations in wastewater. Dr. Lumley recently launched a startup, Clobis Water Inc., with a former advisor and another researcher to commercialize, it'd be different if we were in person, I'd be able to say this word, to commercialize their technology. Our second panelist is Dr. Marissa Jablonski, an accomplished water engineer, environmental advisor, and plastics reduction expert who has worked in more than 45 countries. Dr. Jablonski is an advocate for minorities and women in STEM fields and has designed an internationally recognized project that engages with informal dye industries in rural India to affordably clean their wastewater. Her innovative outlook on research, business, and life has won her many awards from groups including the prestigious National Science Foundation. Our third panelist is Daphne Joyce Wu, who is a senior at Middleton High School. She has been involved with sustainability efforts since middle school, but when she got to high school, she began the environmental committee, which then combined with the school's ecology club to form what is now called the Green Team. She has implemented many projects in her school and hopes to someday work on a national or international level by writing sustainability policies and regulations. I'm super excited to hear from all 3 of these women. So I'm going to hand things over to Katherine to get us started on our presentation.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, everyone, for being here this afternoon virtually. You know, we're hoping next year with the 3rd year of Women in Water, we can actually be in person, but this is just how things is and are really these days, as I'm sure we're all used to it at this point. As Heather mentioned, my name is Katherine Noël. I am a meteorologist at WKOW. I am the only woman on the 5-man team for weather, and I'm so happy to be here. Can't wait for hearing about, women in water and sustainability and to see what these women have to say. First, a little bit about myself. I, just like most meteorologists, loved weather growing up as a kid. It's something I, as young as 4 or 5 years old, can remember talking about, asking my parents questions. We moved around 9 times before the 7th grade. I moved all over the United States, anywhere from Wisconsin, Northern California, Louisiana, Florida, Tennessee, New Jersey, Southern Wisconsin, Washington State, and Indiana. So I experienced a lot of different weather phenomenon, hurricanes, tornadoes, we had blizzards, we had earthquakes. I always would ask my parents, why is this happening and what can we do to stay safe? So as a lot of kids, that's something that could scare them or they kind of get turned away from it. But instead, I can thank my parents for educating me at a young age and making sure we were always staying safe and making sure I knew what was going on. And I just became really curious. I'm someone who loves to ask questions and loves to get the answers and learn more. And that's kind of led me to my career path. It was always weather. I have videos of my parents, recording me at a young age, talking about the weather. So it's come to fruition. And I was a news reporter actually for years when I graduated from Purdue University. I majored in broadcast journalism and I minored in earth and atmospheric sciences. And then I recently just graduated from Mississippi State to become a certified meteorologist. So that's a little bit about me and my interest in weather. For our panel discussion, we're going to hear from 3 different women about their role, their research, their background with water and sustainability. So we're going to have a 10-minute presentation from each of these women, each panelist, to kick things off. After that, I'm going to help moderate a discussion where hopefully we can ask some more questions and dig a little bit deeper, learn more about their career paths, how they got interested in this, and where they're going to stay in the future with water and sustainability. But now I'd like to hand things over to our first panelist, Dr. Margaret Lumley.
Hi, everyone. Let me just get my presentation up. All right. Seeing the right view? Hopefully that's a yes.
Looks good, Margaret.
Okay, sounds good. All right, it's great to be here today and see so many of you on this panel. As Heather and Katherine mentioned, my name is Margaret, and I am the recent CEO and co-founder of a water treatment startup called Freshwater, Inc. My first day as CEO is actually on Wednesday, so this is an exciting time for me. I'm originally from California and I went to college at UC Santa Barbara in Southern California. I've always been interested in science, kind of like Katherine said, she's always been interested in weather. And so it was a natural progression for me to major in chemistry when I was an undergraduate. I also started doing research in a lab working on lithium ion batteries, which are the things that we all have in our phones and our laptops. And I had the opportunity to spend a summer at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, doing water desalination research. So you can kind of see a theme of water and energy here in my career path. I decided I wanted to keep doing research and came to UW-Madison in 2015 to do my PhD in chemistry. Here's a photo of me after I defended my dissertation from my living room in the summer of 2020. Not exactly what I envisioned, but we made the best of it, and my parents made this cute banner for me. And during my PhD, I worked on a new water treatment technology that I am now trying to commercialize at my startup, Freshwater. So really kind of a traditional academic tech transfer journey. When I defended my thesis, I decided to make this word cloud of my dissertation. And I like showing this image because it highlights some of the key areas that I work in. You can see words here like water, desalination, sodium, chloride, all of these words that relate to water. And then things like electrode, battery, energy, relating to energy. And I really work at the intersection of the water energy nexus. This is really where I'm passionate about solving problems. And the water energy nexus is the idea that water and energy are inextricably linked. You need water to make energy, and you need energy to make water. And being from California, maybe Katherine, you can relate to this, and some other people in the audience, you are always hearing about issues of water scarcity. When most people think of California, they think of an image like this. This is an aerial view of UC Santa Barbara, where you see a ton of water. Our beautiful campus surrounded by the ocean looks like this all year round, which is difficult to stomach when we have our negative 20-degree weather in Madison. But in California, we were actually in a drought from 2011 to 2019. And California is in a drought again. And you're constantly hearing about how you should shorten the length of your showers, turn off the sink when you're brushing your teeth, all of those things we don't think about so much in the Midwest. On the right, I'm showing an image of the Santa Barbara County Reservoir, where you can see it was full in 2011 before the drought started, and almost depleted down here in 2016 at the height of the drought. And this issue of water scarcity is really something that's close to home for me and for a lot of people in the US and across the country. When we think about the Earth's surface, it's actually covered in water, but the problem is that only 2.5% of water on Earth is fresh water, and even less of that water is available for human consumption. And this is where desalination comes in. Desalination is just the idea of taking salt out of water. And when most people think of desalination, they're thinking of something like this, where you take salt out of ocean water to turn it into fresh water. But desalination can actually be used for a wide range of applications that I wasn't really aware of when I started this project. And one that is relevant to us here in the Midwest is desalination of wastewater. We all use water every day, and after we use that water, it gets sent to wastewater treatment plants where it is treated and then discharged to the environment. But some things in wastewater can't be easily removed, and so 80% of global wastewater is actually released to the environment without adequate treatment. One of those things that is really difficult and expensive to remove from wastewater is salt. We all use salt in the winter to keep our roads safe. We use salt in our water softeners. Salt is also a component of some fertilizer, and it's all around us, especially here in the Midwest, especially in the winter. But the problem is a large portion of that salt ends up in wastewater treatment plants where it can't be removed, and so it gets discharged to the environment, which is bad for a lot of freshwater aquatic species. And salt can also cause corrosion of pipes. So it has these really negative environmental and human health impacts. This image on the right here shows the amount of salt that passes through just the Madison wastewater treatment plant every single day. It's about 70 tons of salt. And I mentioned it can't be removed. So all of that salt is getting discharged to rivers and streams. The Madison wastewater treatment plant has done a really great job of trying to educate people about salt use, encouraging better road salting practices. They have incentive programs for installing more high efficiency water softeners, but it's still not really enough. We still have too much salt in our wastewater. And so what we're trying to do at Clovis Water is develop a more energy efficient and cost-effective way to take salt out of wastewater. Salt is really made of sodium and chloride. And so to remove salt from water, we need a material that can take sodium out of water and a material that can take chloride out of water, this kind of separation process. There are a lot of really well-known sodium storage materials, but chloride storage materials are really rare. And my research group at UW-Madison discovered that bismuth, which is a metal, can really be very effective at removing chloride from water. And we patented this discovery. The way that our technology works is we take our sodium storage material and our chloride storage material and immerse them in wastewater. The chloride is removed by the chloride storage material, the sodium is removed by the sodium storage material, and we've engineered this device to generate electricity while it takes that salt out of water. We then end up with this desalinated wastewater that can be safely discharged to the environment. When our materials become saturated with sodium and chloride, we can move them into another solution and supply electricity to release the sodium and chloride so that we can use our materials over and over again. And one thing that's really unique about our technology is we convert that sodium and chloride into useful chemicals like sodium hydroxide, commonly known as caustic soda, or bleach, which is used as a disinfectant right at a lot of wastewater treatment plants. So what we're doing with our technology is, in a really energy efficient way, taking sodium and chloride out of a complex mixture of different components that you find in wastewater and turning that sodium and chloride into something valuable to create this sustainable resource recovery cycle. Over the past few years, we've been focused on making sure that this technology works on a small scale in the Troy group at UW-Madison. You can see here an image of when we immerse our materials in salt water, they actually generate enough electricity to power this light bulb, which is kind of fun to see. And now at Clovis Water, we've focused on testing our device in real water samples and trying to scale up our technology so that we can start to do some pilot tests out in the field. When I was in grad school, I started to think about what it would mean to start a company if that's something that I really wanted to do. And so I participated in a lot of different entrepreneurial training programs and really got an appreciation for what's involved in running a startup. I went a few years ago to a conference called Tech Connect that's specifically geared at connecting technology inventors with potential industrial partners. I also did an entrepreneurial boot camp on campus at UW-Madison and had the opportunity to give a pitch at WARF's Innovation Day a few years ago. And as I started to learn more about running a company, I realized that I would have the opportunity to bridge the gap between academic research and commercial product development, taking these really cool, innovative ideas that are developed at universities and trying to make a practical impact with those technologies. And I get to work at the intersection of science and entrepreneurship, which is something I'm really interested in, and have the opportunity to make a real impact right here in Madison with the technology that I worked on during my PhD. None of this work would have been possible without my amazing team, my two co-founders, Dr. Do-Hwan Nam. He's a research scientist and the original inventor of this technology at UW-Madison, and Professor Kyung-Shin Choi. She was my PhD advisor and is also a co-founder of Clovis Water. I've also had some really great mentors on campus from Discovery to Product and our technology transfer office called WARF. They've been really helpful as I started to think more about customer discovery and business development, and I'm happy to know that I can always use them as resources. And finally, some various funding sources on campus and federal grants that we've received. I just want to highlight this one here. Our company was awarded a small business technology transfer grant from the National Science Foundation. It's the first funding that's actually going to the startup and will allow us to do some of that research that I mentioned on technology scale up and testing in real water samples. And we also have some great partnerships with local organizations to help us figure out if the technology that we're developing can actually solve the problems that they have in a practical and affordable way. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. My contact information is up here. Feel free to reach out if you have questions or want to learn more, and I look forward to the rest of the panel.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lumley. Let's get right to our second panelist. I will introduce now Dr. Marissa Jablonski.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Here we go. So my name is Marissa Jablonski, and I am the Executive Director of the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin, a brand new initiative that brings together all 13 UW universities around all things water. Before I move on, I just want to read an Indigenous water acknowledgement that was written for the Freshwater Collaborative. Here we go. As a system of universities in Wisconsin, we share stewardship of the land and water between the Michigami, the full system of Great Lakes, and Michizzibi, the Great Mississippi River, with the current sovereign nations of Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Ojibwa, Oneida, and Mohican people, along with the ancestors before them. Together, we commit to being connected to this space, increasing our knowledge of it, and transmitting that knowledge to future generations. And I just want to shout out and thank Dr. Margaret Newton for writing that for the Freshwater Collaborative. So my very first memory from a child of the natural environment that really locked in my brain was standing on the shores of Lake Michigan as probably a 2-year-old and looking out and thinking, oh my gosh, this is the biggest thing in the world. This is really important to our lives. We have to learn to work with this. I know it's really deep for a 2-year-old. I just remember thinking, whoa, it's huge, right? And as I grew into my career, people would ask me, what do I want to do when I get older? And my answer was always, I want to clean rivers. And so as I started going to school, I was really drawn in by organizations that accomplished goals and worked with Planet Earth. So I got my undergraduate from UW-Stevens Point in environmental science, and then decided to go back to school for my master's and PhD at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, where I helped co-found our student chapter of Engineers Without Borders. And this is a group of students and people in Guatemala, Mayan people in Guatemala, working on a water distribution system. And we're talking about flow reduction. I'm obviously there in the middle. And I think it's really important as we hear from people today, we think about where are we in our lives and where do we want to go, and let the how do we get there take place every day, because we wake up and we show up. So it's really interesting. But as I was getting my master's degree and starting the Engineers Without Borders program at UW-Milwaukee, I was also applying for grants and thinking about what am I going to do after I get this master's degree. So I actually got an award to go to India for my PhD, and decided on my dissertation topic, which is not unlike Margaret's in many ways. So I worked on photophenton oxidation of textile dye wastewater. So I was working with rural textile dyers to treat colored wastewater so that it didn't get spilled or dumped onto the natural environment. And as Margaret described, much of the world's wastewater simply gets strewn into the natural environment before it gets treated. And so I worked with many small scale dyers in order to create a low cost technology that used rusty metal, hydrogen peroxide, and sunlight to decolorize the wastewater in order to be able to be dispelled into the environment. I learned a great many things, so many things that are too much for this talk, but it's really been fascinating work. And that led me to my next step in life, which was actually working in Washington, DC on policy. So I was an environmental advisor to USAID. This is the United States Agency for International Development, where I advised all over the world about things like single-use plastics reduction and solid waste removal and overland flow and all sorts of environmental issues. But probably the most interesting work was when I helped the U.S. Embassy of Thailand and 65 hotels on Phuket, Thailand, which is an island, reduce their single-use plastics by about 6 million in 6 months, which sounds like an amazing number. And I was quite excited when I heard about it. But in all reality, we use 1 million single-use plastics every minute of every day all over the planet, right? 1 million. So it's a lot. And we continue to work on decreasing that number and on coming up with alternatives that make more sense for our future populations. And, but I love talking about this stuff, so I could go on forever. So we'll just keep going, which leads me to where I am right now. I am the executive director of the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin. This is a partnership of Wisconsin's 13 public universities, and we connect those universities and those water programs with industry partners, local communities, policymakers, and advocacy groups. And we have a broad vision. It's to establish Wisconsin's world leadership in freshwater science, technology, entrepreneurship, and economic growth, to fill the demand for a water workforce through explicit structuring of curriculum, training, and workplace experience, and to solve global water resource problems through collaborative research across the natural science, engineering, social science, economics, and policy arenas. So we have quite a task. And we're getting some statewide attention and some national attention. The Department of Energy did mention us a few months ago, which was really exciting in their address to the nation. But also Governor Tommy Thompson describes us as establishing a significant integrated multi-institutional higher education program for the freshwater economy. People all over the world could come to Wisconsin, the only state that's going to have these programs. So the Freshwater Collaborative is an exciting new initiative, and we're just getting started. So why water? Water is the fastest growing sector of the world's economy. It is expected that by 2035, it will be worth approximately $800 billion, and that 78% of all jobs globally are water dependent. So when we think about all like that exciting futuristic data, we still have these challenging problems, including things like climate change, increasing urbanization, intensive agriculture and commercial fishing practices, and other trends that require skilled water professionals to innovate and tackle. What are the water industries that the Freshwater Collaborative works with? We work with agriculture, commercial fisheries, energy production, manufacturing, mining, recreation and tourism, shipping, water infrastructure, and water technology. And why Wisconsin? Because we have more water resources than any other state. As you all know, we're bordered by one of the world's greatest river systems, obviously the Mississippi River, 2 inland seas, right? We have Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, more than 44,000 miles of rivers and streams, more than 15,000 lakes, more than 1,200 miles of shoreline. And that's not to mention rich and diverse wetlands and significant groundwater assets. So the public universities, as they stand, already have really strong water programs that cover diverse, crucial areas of study, much of which I just named. However, these strong and diverse programs have traditionally been isolated, and each has operated largely within their own silo. So what are these challenges that we talk about that our state, our nation, and our planet has to tackle? The 2 that Wisconsin is concentrating on right now are the first and the third: agricultural water management and water quality safety and emerging contaminants. However, everything listed here would be a grand water challenge. And we believe that from our individual strengths, we can create a powerful, interdependent, collaborative whole. So very currently, we are building a statewide interdependent educational programming network that, beginning in fall, will include customizable undergraduate degree programs, majors, minors, certificate programs for students to travel around the state and use the expertise of multiple UW universities. We offer hands-on student experiences that transform the educational experience. And then we are partnering with internships and job opportunities that give our students even more hands-on experience to get water workforce ready. Right now, we've just been promised $5 million from the Wisconsin State Legislature, and we should be receiving that money in the next couple of months. In that funding, we will be working to tackle those 10 grand water challenges through student experiences that get students in the field, learning by doing and protecting and monitoring streams in the agricultural landscape. We plan on supporting course development that enhances water education. And those courses may include freshwater informatics, sustainable tourism, healthy recreation. We also will be supporting collaborative research that tackles those challenges and also enhances undergraduate education experiences in topics like the impact of agricultural runoff on navigation. And lastly, career development, really supporting that line from high school, tech, undergrad, internship, and finally career in order to grow the freshwater workforce. So again, my name is Marissa Jablonski, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me using my email. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dr. Jablonski. Now to our third and our final panelist, we have Daphne Wu.
Hello, everyone. My name's Daphne, and I'm really honored to be a part of this panel today. It's really inspiring to hear about other women who have passions in sustainability and clean water. So I'll get started with my presentation. Here's a picture of me. This is what I look like if you couldn't already tell. Yeah, I'm a senior at Middleton High School, and I'm really passionate about sustainability. And in college, I would really like to work in public policy. My love for sustainability started out at a really young age, as you can see from this drawing. It doesn't look finished. It seems like I missed half of the water on Earth, which isn't good for the purposes of this meeting. But anyway, so here are the 4 sections of my presentation today. I'm going to be outlining the 4 main organizations that I'm a part of and my work. So I started Green Team at Middleton High School when I was a freshman. As you can see, we've grown throughout time. We started off as just me and a few other friends, and now our Green Team has over 110 members, which is really big considering our student population. And we work a lot with reducing waste, reducing energy usage in our school. We're trying to educate students on recycling properly and turning off their lights and reusing, reducing, all that good stuff. So yeah. One thing that we love to do when we can is to visit elementary schools and educate them about waste reduction, energy usage, clean water, taking care of our planet. As you can see, the top 2 images are us visiting elementary schools in person. And then the bottom one is us leading sustainability activities, really fun activities through Zoom, which was our reality for a very long time. We also have this very successful program called CRAYOLA Color Cycle, in which all classrooms have a box that they can use to collect dead writing utensils in order for us to take them to COLORCYCLE, which is a program that recycles all writing utensils, and the TerraCycle program, which is called BIC TerraCycle program. And we recycle a lot of markers and pens and pencils every single month. We go around the school and we collect them, and it's always a wonderful and satisfying time to see how many markers we've collected and diverted from the landfill. Another thing that we do is we recycle batteries. That's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of toxic chemicals inside of the batteries can leak into our waterways and just in general go out into the environment and have toxic effects on our wildlife. Okay, I don't know if this is going to load, and I'm not going to show the video, but we have this amazing subcommittee within Green Team that's called the Waste Gang. They make me laugh all the time. They are super passionate about reducing waste in our school. They make really funny videos and raps, and songs on how to reduce and reuse. And they're the best. I can't show the video, but just trust that it would make you laugh. Oh, it's going. Okay, never mind. Okay. My second topic of the day is the Dane County Youth Environmental Committee. This is an organization that I began in my sophomore year. We consist of 54 students across 18 schools in Dane County. Here are all the schools that are represented. I won't read them all out because that would take quite a while, but we meet monthly to talk about the various issues that we see in our schools and our communities. And it's really nice to be able to talk to other student environmentalists. The majority of our committee is actually women. So that's always empowering as well to talk about sustainability with them. Here's our website if you ever wanted to visit and talk with us. If you're like an organization leader and you want to have student input on your project or your company, we have had a lot of CEOs and like people that run nonprofits come in and talk with us about getting the student perspective on things. So it's just dcyec.org. Oh, never mind. I don't know why that happened. Okay, here. Okay, the third thing is that I'm part of the City of Middleton Sustainability Committee. I'm their sole high school representative. Recently, I got my hard-earned voting right, which means that now I can vote on that committee, which is amazing. A few things that I've been involved in with that committee is we do this light bulb exchange, and it's been really successful where people trade in their dead light bulbs or their incandescent, energy inefficient light bulbs, and we give them free LED lights. That's just an equitable way to reduce energy usage in our city. Here are some of the signs that I made with fellow Green Team members and students, and we paraded for the Good Neighbor Festival, which was really, really fun. Here's proof that I'm on the sustainability committee. As you can see, it says Daphne Wu, high school student. And right now we are working on a 2022 work plan because our work plan was very outdated and it didn't make very much sense in the modern day world. So we redid our work plan recently. And as you can see, I'm part of Sustainable U, which is a city environmental education program. LED lights, I'm trying to reduce single-use plastics in my city. So that are a couple of things that we're working on right now. Lastly, last but not least, this is one of the things that I'm the most proud of. For my school district, we last March 2021, we passed a sustainability resolution that is making our school district commit to 100% renewable energy by 2035 and 35% waste reduction by 2025. And I did write this resolution when I was a freshman. It did not get passed until like 2.5 years later, which took a lot of perseverance. But it was very, very exciting when it got passed. And you can read our resolution at the link below. So yeah, and a lot of other school districts are starting to adopt sustainability resolutions, which is super exciting. I think that if you want to promote like a sustainability culture throughout all generations, you really got to focus on students in high school, in elementary school, and middle school. It has to start early for people to start caring about sustainability. Yeah, and just to detail the parts of our sustainability resolution, number 1 is renewable energy. That's our goal, 100% renewable energy by 2035. Our second pillar is waste reduction. I'm part of the waste reduction subcommittee, and we're trying to get 35% waste reduction by 2025. Last but not least, of course, we have environmental education, in which we're trying to integrate sustainability in topics in every grade level through the curriculum, and working closely with teachers to see how we can educate students on climate change and other environmental issues early. Because I'm a student, I'm very much looking forward to the future. I'm not as accomplished. I'm not the CEO or the head of anything yet, but I'm really excited to wrap up my senior year. For college, I hope to study environmental studies and public policy. And last but not least, of course, is my career. And I have no idea what that's going to look like. So cross your fingers for me, because I'm going to need that. And here's an inspiring quote that I feel like we all need sometimes. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. I want this tattooed. Not just kidding, but I think this is a great quote. Thank you for your time, and I will be checking the chat.
All right, thanks, Daphne. You are adorable, and it was very educational. Not only you, what you had to say, literally all of you. It's great to hear from women in science, women in water, and sustainability. So we're going to start our discussion portion of this, and I have a few questions that I'll be asking, and feel free to jump in for our panelists, whenever you, one after another, feel the need to answer this. If you feel like very passionate about this question. I think the first one is a good one for Daphne to come up first and ask. A commonality even between all 4 of us is we all started and had this passion really growing at a young age within us, So I think that leads to our first question. Are you ever too young or too old to take up an interest in water and sustainability? Or do you have any advice for people that are looking to learn more about the topic?
Absolutely. You do not have an age. I think that a lot of the sustainability committee members that I work with only were educated on climate change when they were in their 50s. And I think that it's never, ever too late to do anything, unless you want to be a pro football player at the age of 80. But sustainability is a lifelong thing. You can start at any time.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in if that's all right, because I also think it has no beginning age either, right? So what I found, I run workshops on sustainability, and you can check them out at my website, marissajablonski.com. But in that, what I realize is most of the sustainability workshops are related to behavior change, and kids are the best way to create adult behavior change. So I came home from kindergarten. I had celebrated my first Earth Day. I was super inspired, learned all about composting, looked up at my dad, who would have been like 35 years old at the time, and said, why do we throw our food waste in the landfill? And he looked at me and said, I didn't know we throw our food waste in the landfill. He hadn't awareness, right? So when little kids get excited about the environment, that's when parents, aunts and uncles, grandparents, siblings, whole neighborhoods can make a big change. So it's never too late and it's never too early either.
Yeah, I think those are both great answers. And I would just echo what both of you said. It's never too late. It's never too early. One piece of advice that I would give to anyone looking to get started is just to start small. It can be really overwhelming to just think, I want to be more sustainable. Like, what does that mean to you? And what is one small change that you could implement in your daily life that could make a difference over the long term? Just like with any habit, right? You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Think about, from my perspective, using a little bit less road salt or making sure your water softener is operating efficiently. Those little changes will add up over time. Start composting, maybe, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that does lead to, another question. A lot of us, we look at the broad spectrum of this and maybe could be a little overwhelmed by it, just the fact of how big of an impact this has on us. And you look at yourself and some people wonder, like, what are those little things that I could do? I don't think some people realize it can come to like the littlest things every day that you do that can make a difference. So what are those small things, if I'm someone who wants to make that change but doesn't know where to start, what would you suggest? Where do you start?
I can chime in if that's all right. So I start by dissecting my life. So before I got hired by the US Embassy and was sent to Thailand for 2 months, I kind of looked in the mirror and said, oh my gosh, I'm going to go teach 65 hotel chains how to reduce their single-use plastic. And I use single-use. And so I went to the grocery store and I told myself, all right, I'm not buying one piece of single-use plastic here today. And I caught myself crying in the produce aisle because I really wanted blueberries that day, and there's no option. And about maybe 9 months after that, I finally found a local farmer that would sell me berries in a box, basically, that I could reuse. Now, that being said, what did I do that day? I bought bananas, oranges, apples, and mangoes. And I knew my mangoes and bananas were not coming from a local, and oranges were not coming locally sourced. So I was making a conscious decision and a conscious choice, but realizing I'm spending fuel where instead of plastic, but plastic is made of fuel. So I justified it and I said, okay, this is what we're doing today, right? So to me, it takes sitting down and really analyzing. So when I think about people who are trying to go sustainable, right away, the easiest is their garbage can. So open up underneath your sink, look down and say, what's in my garbage can? Is it a bunch of plastic bags from ready-made food? Is it a bunch, and you can look in your recycling bin as well. Am I throwing away a lot of plastic water bottles? Well, that's an easy one. Get yourself a filter. So, and then understand there's a reason that you don't trust your water and you buy plastic water. Don't beat yourself up. Don't live in shame. Just say, okay, I'm going to create good rather than just cut out the bad. I'm solving this problem. I'm getting a Berkey filter and I'm doing this, right? And then get your family on board and make it a game. And so, yeah, those are my beginnings. But I've done this in every single room in my house. Right. So then you go in your bathroom and you're like, this floss has PFAS in it. I might change that. Get some silk floss, right? You go in your kitchen. I love takeout food. How can I get it in my to-go containers instead of these styrofoam containers? Things like that. So it's piece by piece, little. It's taken me probably 3 years to go 70 to 80% plastic free.
Right. And this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. And I think we all need to realize that. No shame, like you said. And I love that, because it can be hard on yourself. You think, oh, shoot, like I have a long ways to go. But even just starting there, and I think if we all start, we can make a difference, right? So let's go on to the next question. How has the field of water and sustainability changed over the past decade?
I can chime in here with my perspective. So I haven't been working in the water industry, but one thing that I hear a lot about is adoption of new technologies and new innovation in the water industry. And that's something that's really relevant to me. And historically, adopting new technologies in the water industry has been very, very slow. There's a lot of people out there with really great ideas like mine that could make a big difference in terms of the way that we treat water. And there's really like a couple of big technologies that have been dominant in the field for a very long time. And so one thing that is happening now is people are becoming aware of this challenge. And it makes sense because water treatment is pretty risky. You don't want to mess it up, right? We're giving water to people to drink. We're putting water back into the environment. But how do we get these good technologies out there so that we're not just doing the status quo, because that's clearly not working anymore. And so people are now aware of this issue. You can't go to a panel about technology innovation in water without hearing somebody say this. And so now there are, specific accelerator programs for entrepreneurs who want to get into the water industry. There's specific investors that are looking to invest in early stage water treatment companies. And that's the first step, I feel, is just an awareness of this issue and a few people who are implementing programs to help make it happen faster.
And I love this question because we talk about, where has this been the past decade and where are we now? But I think, and what we all want to know too, and if you guys can chime in, since obviously you guys are a big part of this, all of you here, where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years too, moving forward?
I would just say that to echo what Margaret said, the technology space is definitely what's been changing in the last 5 to 10 years. The water industry, we had a joke when I was in graduate school for wastewater treatment. We would say if a male engineer in the 1950s died and we froze him, well, I guess we just froze him. I don't know what this was a while ago. And he woke up today, which would have been 2010 to 2015-ish, he would be able to walk into the wastewater treatment facility and work his job. And I say he because today we are 13% female, but in the 1950s, I'm not sure we would have had any female wastewater engineers. I hope I'm wrong. I should actually look that up today. But the truth is that technology piece, that startup piece, that's key. And there are organizations actually in Wisconsin. I'm sure you've heard of the Water Council is a great water tech hub. And then there's also Michigan and Ohio, right? When you look at waterways, like the Great Lakes is a great example. Many university systems around the Great Lakes on the US side and then also in the Canada side are supporting work with water because it's not just a resource for our use, it's a resource for our lives, right? I just had a conversation with a Native American community that said, wait a second, you're only talking about water use. What about the plants and the animals? Of course, right? We have to think outside the box. We have to work together. So It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. That's a great answer. And Daphne, too, what about you? Being our youngest panelist, we always want to know what's the younger generation thinking, we rely on you a lot too, to like help leading us forward. What's it like being where you're at your school? Do you see a lot of kids have that interest and want to move forward and make that change?
Yeah, I think that the thing with young kids like me, is that we only care about these issues when it's like very tangible to us. Like if you tell us about something like that's far off, like climate change, even though that is horrible when you research about it, but it's not something that's in front of us, which is why like when the Save the Turtles movement started, it was such a big thing. Like nobody wanted to use plastic straws anymore. For us, I think that sustainability has definitely become much more important. I think most students at my school personally do a lot to reduce their footprint. I've seen a lot of students use reusable bags. We're trying to lessen the amount of salt that we put on our pavements at our school, in our parking lots. I see a lot of people using reusable mugs, and it's just like a very pervasive movement in our school. I guess pervasive isn't the best word to use. A very expansive movement.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So another question too, what do you think the biggest threat to our waterways are here locally? Locally is something we always think about being in, even we can take it to Madison, Dane County, Wisconsin in general. And also, what's the biggest threat, do you think, to global waterways?
There's so many perspectives we could take, because the threat is, Margaret, I was thinking you were going to chime in, because salt is a humongous threat. And so I'm going to let you take that one. Solid waste, you think about plastic, that's a physical threat because it clogs waterways and then chokes actual ecosystems. You think about blue-green algae that is from overflow from agriculture that isn't well managed. That's a disaster and can kill small animals and really harm ecosystems. So the largest threat is not working with the planet, right? It's trying to power through and measure success. Oh, am I going to sound too political? Measure success using economic measures. Like that's the biggest threat, right? When we can incorporate environmental measures in our success and really reach sustainability and send packaging back to companies and deal with things, create circular economies so that everything we consume becomes soil at the end of its lifetime. That's a great thing. That's exciting. There's growth. There's life there. Yeah, the rest is a threat. You were correct.
Yeah, I thought I would let Marissa go first because, as you might have guessed, my answer will be salt. And the reason that I say that is, it's what I know the most about, but also it's a bit of a silent killer. Like you think about something like phosphorus. Phosphorus causes algae, and people don't like algae in our lakes. And so there's, and phosphorus is bad, and it's great that people are aware of phosphorus causing algae, but salt has no visible effects like that. If you're studying the effect on freshwater ecosystems at a biological level, you can see it, but most of us aren't doing that. And there's things like the Colorado River is getting saltier. Our Great Lakes are getting saltier. All of the water sources that we have are getting saltier. And that eventually will build up to make it more difficult to treat even drinking water, right? Like if we keep putting salt in our fresh water, lakes, rivers, whatever, eventually it won't be fresh water anymore. And then if you remember, as we all do, what happened in Flint, Michigan, that was caused by salty water in the pipes. That causes corrosion, lead leaching out of pipes. So there's all of these different issues that people just don't really tie back to salt use, and we use it everywhere and we need it everywhere, especially like in the Midwest, we can't stop driving when it snows, right? So I think from my perspective, that is the big one, just because there's not a lot of awareness around it. And I'm probably biased, but now you all know about issues related to salt, and so you can act upon it.
And there were some great questions too. I wish we could take up all the questions in the chat. I know you guys, I'm sure, will get a lot of questions sent to you emailed afterwards, and these women will be able to specifically answer all of your questions. So thank you for writing in. But someone, had a great question, like just talking about putting this to fruition and what you're working on, Margaret. Like, how long do you think? What are we thinking timeline? Because time is always, a big question when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of where we are, we're building our first prototype that can treat 1 liter of water. That's half a soda bottle. So we have a long way to go. I'd say realistically, maybe 2 to 3 years from a pilot project, 5 to 10 years away from a commercial product, but hopefully we can accelerate that with some of the different resources that I and Marissa have mentioned.
Okay. And then this goes back to one of the questions too that we did talk about a little bit earlier. Sustainability is what we talked about more so instead of exactly waterways, but I'll ask, if you could ask people to make one change in their lives to help our waterways, what would it be? So going back to making those little changes here and there, something within the home too, something small, I think that's big for people. Where do you suggest people start out?
So I think Marissa said, look in your trash, which is great advice. In terms of water, I think just remembering that everything you put down your faucet, everything you put down the drain ends up in wastewater treatment plants. And so just pay attention to what those things are. And I know it can be overwhelming to look at like the ingredients on your shampoo bottle. So start simple, like even just thinking about your water softener, salt, or other things that you're putting down your drain. Just Google, what happens to this shampoo or this grease when I let it go down my sink, and try to see if there's a way that you can stop using just 1 or 2 of those things and then build from there.
I love it. And I think, even something that you mentioned in California, the drought issues there obviously do make a difference. Some things we always hear about this too, just literally even turning off the faucet when you are brushing your teeth, something like that is not something that can just be a California, idea. We can do that in Wisconsin here too and help, nationwide. So that's something we always like to say too, when we talk about climate and sustainability too and weather, because this is part of, meteorology too. Something we think about and discuss from time to time. So one of our last,
really quick, sorry. When it's raining outside, try not to do your laundry.
Oh, yeah.
Really hard. So in the city of Milwaukee, at least, we have a combined sewer. So that means when we have heavy rain events, that the rain will combine with the wastewater in the same sewer system, in the same wastewater treatment facility. And the wastewater treatment facility can't necessarily handle all of the water inflow. So don't do your laundry, don't shower. And if you do, don't beat yourself up, but maybe take a 2-minute shower instead of a 5-minute or something like that. But just, and think about what you're purchasing. So do you need, believe it or not, everything we manufacture uses a lot of water. So if you're getting rid of your car, do you need to, or can your car survive, right? Can your washer and dryer? It's always this issue of, do you need a new one or can you use the same one? And what do you do with your old one when you get a new one? Things like that. It's just thinking and Googling and searching and leaning in and having curiosity. That's the best thing you can do for your water.
Yeah, absolutely. Curiosity is where we need to start, right? We're not taking very many questions, but I do like this one we just got from Anne. Any tips from someone entering the water resources management job field now? Maybe Daphne can take something away from it too, because I know her career question was question mark.
Oh goodness, I don't know anything about water resources management. I think I'll have to hand this off to
right. The other women, if they have any advice for you as well too, right?
Yeah, I would say, how do I want to say this? Yep. What I love about people entering the water resources field right now is how curious they are, right? We're starting to realize that there is no global issue, especially an environmental issue, that is right or wrong, black, white, yes, no, everything is a shade of gray. Everything is complex. And so be curious about it, right? yes, if we take a plastic bag at the grocery store, it's only one plastic bag. But in my experience with single-use plastics, behind every single plastic bag, there are 10 other ones. It's no exaggeration. And so just be aware, lean in, find the truth, get curious. If your city offers tours of the wastewater treatment facility, of the drinking water treatment facility, if the neighboring city offers these, go on the tour. Lean in, get curious, ask questions, grow your network. Anyone trying to find a position, it has to do with your curiosity and your network. It's bizarre, but that's the way it is right now. And so,
Yeah.
reach out to people, yeah, I don't know. I could say use Freshwater Collaborative, but yeah.
Find that like little niche too that you like love, right? Like Margaret and her salt, like getting rid of that out of the water. It's a great example though. I think that's what we know that we love, and whether we all have our little like niches too, find what you really love and where your passion holds and then go for that, right? And you can do it.
Great advice.
So last but not least, let's talk about any good books, any good documentaries you all have that you would recommend, someone can learn more about water sustainability.
Well, we've got to mention Silent Spring, right? Rachel Carson. That was a beautiful book that was written by a woman. She was a housewife in what years? I can't remember. And it was to raise awareness among housewives, among women who stayed at home, to realize their impact on planet Earth. So I think that's a great place to start, and just to feel empowered and know that only when you yourself change can you influence your family, your community, your job, your city, your state, your region, your country, the world. And it really can work that way. We all know people who know people. So that's the way this works. So I would start there.
Yeah, and a documentary I'll recommend, it's a docu-series called Water Voices. It follows people in different parts of the world who are struggling with water in different ways. And it just kind of gives you a good perspective of how water scarcity, water quality can affect day-to-day lives of people in different parts of the world.
I actually recently watched a really good documentary. It's called Blue Gold, World Water Wars. And I think it goes into not just like the environmental implications of water scarcity, it's also like the political side of it and the human side of it. I think that water has caused a lot of wars and also political tension. And recently, as you can see, like in Mexico, they've been starting to sell their water to Coca-Cola and other big companies that prioritize making profit over the actual community. And they're taking away a lot of communities' water supply. So yeah, that's a really interesting documentary, I suggest.
Okay, great suggestions. Thank you, ladies. And honestly, this I think has gone very well. I know I have taken away from every one of you at least something that I can learn and do better, even, and what I want to research and go, on forward and learning more of. So I'm sure, and I hope everyone watching too feels the same way. You guys did a fantastic job. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here and joining us for our event. I know it was virtual and we're hoping to be in person next year. We may have a few more, words coming after this, but I do want to say thank you for kicking off and being here with us this afternoon.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody. Just a little bit before we all go, if you like this virtual talk, we have another one on Wednesday, our Clean Lakes 101 Science Cafe. Justin Chenevert from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources will join us, and he's going to talk about loving the lakes, how fish and plants reproduce in our lakes. It is a fascinating talk that he gives. So you can sign up for that just like you signed up for this talk. And then on Thursday, we'll be actually at the Edgewater with our friends from Downtown Madison Inc., DMI, a panel discussion on the importance of the lakes in the downtown. So James Tyar, Executive Director, Amy Supple, COO of the Edgewater, Aaliyah Stevenson, she's the Chief Program Officer of the Foundation for the Black Women's Wellness, John Warner, Business Development Manager from Ho Chunk, Ellie Wasserman Chin, President and COO of Destination Madison, and Eric Knapp from the City of Madison. Parks will be there, huge group of people all talking about the importance of the lakes. And then, of course, Saturday, our Friday night, you can come and have a great time on the Edgewater Plaza, night ice, DJs, it'll be great. And then Saturday, Frozen Assets Festival, family friendly, fantastic. And our Frozen 5K run or walk held entirely on a frozen lake, the only run or walk held entirely on a frozen lake in North America that we can find. And just a great way to get out and enjoy the lake. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great evening.